Hey everyone, it's Desmond, and I'm back to say Happy New Year and Happy Holidays to all that might be watching this. I'm here in the hobby room today to give you guys a little update on just what I have, my collection, and some of the plans that I have for what I want to do in terms of my model trains and RC hobby for 2017. Alright, so over here I have the train layout, and since in the basement I don't have a lot of extra space, that is why I've done it so that there's the two scales with HO on top and O on the bottom, though I usually switch it out about halfway through the year with N scale, but since I have a lot of holiday stuff for O scale, I usually put that out. This engine right here was my latest addition to O scale, but this has actually been around now for 2 years, and it's run nicely. This, I actually got it from a group at a firehouse train garden that I am part of in Ellicott City, and they didn't need it at the end of their operating season, so they gave it to me, and I am very happy with this piece. It is probably the centerpiece of my O scale. This engine right here I've had for a while, and I won it at a raffle actually. And however, I have noticed that especially this year it's had some problems where it's going to need to be having an operation done on it soon. For O scale, not too much going on. So up here, HO scale on the other hand, there's been a lot going on recently, particularly the pride of the HO scale layout scenery, which is what I've termed the HO City. I built most of this by scratch, including this front foam piece, this bridge right here, those two buildings right there, all the paint, that alleyway right there, and also the one in front of this building, which was a kit. Also this back section right here with the tunnels I also made, as well as up front here. This engine here, I've had it for about 3 years now. This DCC power cab, I recently got that over the summer, and I've had this Acela now for about 2 years. That was actually a gift to me. Now this engine right here, this is actually a vintage diesel that I restored, and I also put in a DCC decoder, no sound. Now this here is the latest addition to my HO scale engines. It's a Broadway Unlimited Imports M1A steam engine. However, I got this in October around Halloween, and it ran for a month before it actually had a failure in the gearbox where it stopped working. And this is actually the replacement engine for it. It's a different road number than the one that I originally got, but it also is showing the same problem, where it's making the same noise the first one did just before it stopped working. So that I'm going to go back to the store soon for what will be my third engine of this type, and we'll see how that one runs, and hopefully soon I can do a review of this to see how its running characteristics are and sounds are when it's actually working. So for new stuff for HO next year, I'm trying to do a roadway from the end of this bridge all the way down over that section of the layout. I'm also trying to put in a little bit more trees in general, especially in this area here, because to make it look a little less plain. Might be trying to do a station over here. I'm not completely sure though, because as a result of the curves, it would have to be custom made. I might be doing a little bit more in terms of ground cover work on the top level as well as the bottom. I did all the ground cover on that. Looks a lot realistic. I do have a few patches here that I did work on, and so I also did the same thing with the HO City that I have, but I haven't done any ground cover work on the top level yet, so I might try to do a little bit with that. The HO City is pretty much done at this point. Maybe just a few more people, like little people added in there, will make it look even better. Then of course, getting this running, that will be quite lovely. And now to the RCs, and we'll start with literally the smallest first, leading our way up to bigger things. Alright, so these four here are all toy grade, though I want to point out this one is unique because it can actually climb on the walls because of this little vacuum it has on the bottom of here. And this one, for toy grade, it actually has an okay suspension setup with suspension on each wheel, though suspension that doesn't travel that far. This one is pretty basic, doesn't work that well, and is like for when I have events where a lot of little kids are coming, and I want to give them something to use as well, because although they might not be able to drive the faster ones, they still should be able to have a little fun with the hobby and eventually, you know, get to the big, fast, brushless, lipo powered stuff. And I also want to save this one for the purpose of crushing it with potential monster trucks. I mean, it is kind of small and close to the ground, and since it doesn't work that well anymore, it would be perfect for that application. This one right here may have actually been my first ever RC as a little kid, and nowadays it has a problem where the gears are actually grinding in it. Let me see it. Yeah, you might have just been able to hear it, but that sound is amplified many times when it runs, and it sounds like a souped up car, honestly, and I have considered fixing it, but since it is not that expensive and sounds funny, I'm going to actually keep it that way, although I know it's not going to eventually work out too good. Before we move on, these two right here are just the rockets that I have. This one was seen in a previous video that I made. This one has actually not been launched since 2013, so definitely either with friends or through the club that I have at the high school, I'm going to try to get this one back in the air. So, next RC we have right here is actually what is a 1/8, or actually I've heard it could be a 1/6 scale Hummer. I mean, it is pretty big if you compare it to my hand, and I'm already a tall person. I'm actually going to be modifying this one, and I've already started to modify it for use with hobby grade equipment. I'm going to put a brushed 540 size motor in it. I'm also going to add in a servo. I've already modified it so that it can turn, have a smaller turning radius to it. And you know, because the chassis is so light, I imagine that it will go at least 20 miles per hour with that 540 size brushed motor in it. So next I'm going to come over here to focus on these two cars. This one is again another one that I've modified. I put a bigger motor in it, so it actually moves along pretty quick on an 8-cell nickel-based battery, though I don't want to use lipos in this because of the electronics. But what's most respectable about it is the range that this now has because of that bigger antenna. This one I actually had running on lipos, but it was running so quick that it actually began to self-destruct. Like this axle towards its later part of its life on lipos began to come out, and it wouldn't be able to go back in all the way. And it also suffered from bodies popping off due to jumps that I did with this. So over here we have my snowmobile. I got this as a little kid, and ever since day one I had a problem with it. First thing that is that no battery charger was included with the kit, but the company did send me one. But next, I found that it didn't steer very well, and that was in part due to a bad design with the steering system itself. It had a gearbox here that would actually turn this piece right here and result in it moving. So that's my clock going off over there. So I'm eventually going to try to put a real servo in this, and what I'll do is I'll also put a 540 size motor in there, 45 turn, and the parts for the motor for this and the parts for this Hummer are actually on the way. But because we don't get a lot of snow down here in Maryland, and I'll only be able to take this out 4 or 5 times a year, I'm going to do it so that I can actually take out my ESC and receiver from this every season and be able to use it in something else. So in order to get this running good, but also stay within a budget range that's okay for me, this right here is my racing F-150. But what's really unique about it is the body, where the doors will open, and there's really a lot of detail in here. The only thing is it's missing is the steering wheel, but I think this had it once, but eventually came off. This used to belong to a friend who was into RC but never found the hobby grade ones and eventually fell out of the hobby. But that's not the case here. And this one, you know, I like it, but since I'm doing projects with the other toy grade ones this year, I'm not going to be doing anything with this, though I eventually want to make it into a fast one, but that is going to be a project way later in the future. Here, the last one that I have is the 1/10 scale FJ Cruiser, and I did put a bigger motor in this one, but it is going to need the electronics, but that's not going to be happening probably until February, March. So the next thing that we have over here are 2 of my boats, and my main one is the Century boat. And what actually happened is that when I was running this on LiPo, the ESC/receiver shot out. And so what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to be converting this to brushless. And I actually do intend to keep the dual propeller steered design and use a V-tail mixer to make that mix happen. What I have here is a little recovery toy grade boat used for this one and also for kids to mess around with. I actually have a new bright fountain boat as well, but I've lost the remote for that one, though it is around here somewhere. Now, here we get to the new and exciting stuff. This is actually going to be my first full-on hobby grade compared to this sub-grade hobby grade boat or any of these toy grade surface vehicles over here. It is very long, 49 inches long, and a 59-inch wingspan. Came with the Spectrum DXE, of course, and you can see more about this in the unboxing video, but here it is all set up now. So this is another new thing of mine. This is my balancing charger, And I also like to use this now with any nickel-based batteries that I have for a greater amount of charge, precision, and also ease. Put a Traxxas connector on this. Let me show you guys the charger itself. It's very easy to use, and I think it was good for definitely what it's worth. And I've really enjoyed having it since I've got it. In this box here, I have all my batteries for the RCs. Here are just 2 of the 8-cell Nye CDs, though this one is about at the end of the line, so I'm probably going to be getting a new one with nickel metal hydrides instead of nickel cadmium. So I will say that these are better when you're using them for in the winter, like in the snowmobile. 6-cell nickel metal hydride, 1.8 amps. 3S LiPo, 3200 milliamps, and came with the Apprentice S. This right here, another 3S, 2200, and I want to use that in the snowmobile when I modify it, and also in the Hummer. Here I have my LiPo, my largest capacity LiPo at 4500 milliamps, and you will be using this primarily in the boat and also for when I'm running the Hummer, but want a longer run time versus more speed. So here's just a 6-cell AA battery holder with a Tamiya connector on it. Here's just some little adapters I have. In this box I have a 1S Li-ion that I'm going to be using in that car, and also the little one over there. I also have a smaller 800 milliamp hour 2-cell LiPo for use. This used to be used in the car over there, but this will still find use throughout the cars. And in here I just have a little LiPo cell checker and a whole bunch of different battery adapters like Traxxas, EC3, yeah, that's mainly it, and also the multi-plug system for this Venom battery right here. Now, there is a new project that I will be doing from start to finish relating to RC this year that I'm going to take a few moments to introduce. And it is called the X-Bot. Now this right here is just a little prototype I made of it using foam board in order to just lay things out. And now what I want this to be is a combination of both a robot and an RC vehicle. The real thing will be quite large, probably between 3 to 4 feet. It's going to be a 6-wheeler chassis, so 3 and 3. It'll use skid steering. This is pretty much what it's going to look like, except for that it'll have the shocks, the wheels on it, stuff like that. Up front, it will have a robot arm, and interchangeable will be a claw and a camera gimbal, so that this will be capable of not only picking things up, but filming objects as well. And this top part, this design is for aesthetic reasons, as well as I want it to be able to carry actual gear around. Now there are going to be two, so this is going to be able to go 30 plus miles per hour, and I'm also planning on having 2 modes, a full speed mode and also a slower mode. The full speed mode will allow it to be controlled with differential steering, where one control stick will control both sets of wheels and they'll move equally, and the turning will be done by just slightly reducing the speed on one of the sets of the wheels. The slow mode will just assign one set of wheels to one control stick. Now, one of the biggest features, if not the biggest features of this robot, will be the follow me feature that I'm going to be programming in. So take this little AA battery. If it was right here and we were to activate the follow me mode on the Xbot, the Xbot would be able to first calculate the position this battery is relative to the Xbot itself, and then as this battery moved, the Xbot would be able to follow it. And of course we'd have separate channels, for like the arm or the camera or stuff. I'm really looking forward to doing this because this will not only function as a robot but also as a very fun RC to drive. It's going to be big. It's going to be very fast for what it is. So this robot will have 2 gears. It will have a high gear for the high speed operation, but its low gear will provide extra torque for being able to not only climb very steep hills, but also to pull a little trailer from it to hold gear like the plane or any of these other, the cars that I have. So that pretty much sums up the Xbot. It's not going to be ready for a long time though for actual use. It's still in the design and research phase, though hopefully the frame can be getting underway soon. Now for other things that I'm going to be trying to do with RC, potentially towards the end of January, I may get an actual hobby grade surface vehicle, though it won't be very expensive, only about $80. It's called the Remo Hobby S-Max, and I figured that would be a nice one to get a little bit more experience with the building of the hobby grade ones, and also it would be fun to have that one at the club because in March, this is something that I know definitely, I will be getting something nitro. As I am part of a live Steam club, and I've had a lot of experience with tinkering and finicky items, and really have wanted a nitro for a while. So it'll be by Traxxas, though I'm not sure of which model I'll be getting yet though. And towards the warmer months, we'll be doing the brushless conversion on the boat. And that's pretty much all I have right now as an idea for 2017. To keeping it realistic, not every idea might be able to be done this upcoming year, though we know we'll definitely be working on the Xbot, and we'll be getting the nitro vehicle, something nitro. But yeah, that pretty much sums it up for this video and the overview of the hobby room, my collection, and what I'll be doing for 2017. This is Desmond signing off.